Hello and welcome to SEO Daily. Day 2 of the much-awaited hearings on the abrogation of Article 370 completed today. Here's a quick breakdown of the arguments made over the day. The court's focus was on the validity of the process adopted to abrogate Article 370. This provision, which granted special status to Jammu and Kashmir, was removed through 3 presidential orders. The first one was in 2018, when a presidential order imposed precedence rule under Article 356 in Jammu and Kashmir. The second presidential order came in 2019. This amended Article 367, effectively allowing the Union to remove Article 370 without the recommendation of Jammu and Kashmir's Constituent Assembly. Previously, the article could not be removed without the Constituent Assembly's recommendation to the President. With this order, the recommendation of the Legislative Assembly would suffice. In an order issued the very next day, Article 370 was abrogated. Days later, Jammu and Kashmir was bifurcated or split up into the Union territories of Jammu and Kashmir and Ladakh. Senior advocate Kapil Sibal found fault in the process on 2 main fronts. First, he focused on allowing the Legislative Assembly to recommend abrogation. He argued that having a Constituent Assembly was a part of a political exercise. It was a body not limited by any law, which could take into account the will of the people. How then could the Union replace the workings of a Constituent Assembly with a Legislative Assembly, which is a lawmaking body limited by the Constitution? He then referred to Dr. B.R. Ambedkar's speeches in the Constituent Assembly debates to show that a Constituent Assembly was starkly different from a legislative body. Ambedkar had pointed out that the Constituent Assembly had no partisan motives. Beyond securing a good and workable constitution, it had no axe to grind. If the Parliament becomes a Constituent Assembly, its members will be acting as partisans, seeking to carry amendments to facilitate their own party's agenda. Sibal then looked into the Constitution of Jammu and Kashmir, which limited the powers of the Jammu and Kashmir Legislative Assembly. The J&K Constitution limited its Legislative Assembly's power and did not allow it to even consider a bill on the abrogation of Article 370. So, he pointed out, the presidential order effectively vested power to recommend abrogation to a body that had no authority to do so. It simply had to be the Constituent Assembly who had the power to recommend to the President that Article 370 could be abrogated. At this point, the bench asked, with the Constituent Assembly gone and the Jammu and Kashmir Legislative Assembly left with no power, did it now mean that there is no constitutional mechanism to remove Article 370 from the Constitution? Sibal answered in the affirmative. No such bill can be tabled in the Jammu and Kashmir Legislative Assembly, and the Jammu and Kashmir Constituent Assembly had dissolved. Article 370 could no longer be removed. Next, Sibal looked at the presidential order of 2018, which declared President's rule in Jammu and Kashmir. He insisted that declaring the President's rule was a part of a long-term political ploy. When the President's rule was imposed, that order also did one other thing. It suspended a proviso to Article 3 of the Constitution, which said that the consent of the people of Jammu and Kashmir was needed to alter the boundaries of the state. Sibal argued that the Union was already at that point planning for a bifurcation of Jammu and Kashmir, which it would ultimately do a year later in 2019. By removing the need for consent of the people, Parliament could split the state of Jammu and Kashmir into Union territories without anybody's approval. Sibal argued that the object of Article 356, or the purpose of declaring the President's rule, is to restore democracy. The President uses this power to take over a region for a temporary period to restore democracy. In 2018, when the President's rule was imposed, Sibal argued Article 356 was used for the decimation of democracy. The bench will continue hearing arguments on Tuesday next week. Visit seobserver.in to read a more detailed report of the day's hearings. Thank you for watching.